Mark, Jono, and Neil here, and we're talking about Youth Ministry Fails. There will be multiple volumes of this because we've done it. If there's a way to mess this up, we've cracked the code.
We're your guys.
You know, one of the big ones for me as a young youth guy is I had guys that I looked up to. I had teachers that I looked up to, leaders that I looked up to, personality types that I looked up to, and I wanted with everything in me to be them. And Roger Gladwell was one of the guys. He's with Global Youth Ministry up in Tennessee, and at the time he was down at First Orlando, I believe. And when he came and spoke, it was like Moses came out and was talking, and everything he said was like, I need to be Roger Gladwell. I need to teach exactly like he teaches and say things exactly like he says it. And I would write down everything he said, and I would come home to my youth group, and I would try my best to be him. And I just stunk at it. I couldn't be as serious as he was. I couldn't, because I'm goofy, and so I wasn't as organized in my thoughts. So when I speak, my what do you call it? Defense mechanism is, while I'm gathering my thoughts, I'm going to say something ridiculous. And while everybody's laughing, I'm getting my thoughts together. But I thought, I can't do that this way. I'm supposed to be a certain way. And for the longest time, I thought I was stinking at being a good teacher. And what I was doing was I was trying to be somebody else. And then the same thing happened with one of my interns that was working with me. And it was Jacob, I believe. And he was trying to speak, and he was trying to pop jokes. And I could tell it just wasn't funny. And I told him, I said, dude, when you finally got into the lesson, you were nailing this, man. What? He goes, well, I was trying to do everything. I was like, dude, you can't try to be me, and you can't try to be Reagan, and you can't try to be Pastor Tim or anybody else. You got to do your thing. And as soon as he freed up and realized I don't have to be somebody else, it really freed him up just as a speaker. Because at first, just like singers when they're first learning, they're singing everybody else's songs and trying to sound like them, until they finally start writing their own songs and there's nobody to sound like. Then they've got to be like themselves. They've got to sing like they do. And it's that way for teaching as well.
Yeah, that was some of the best advice you ever gave me, was don't be me. Don't be Reagan. Be you. Mm-hmm. Be who God made you.
Yeah.
And there's so much freedom in that, because you do compare and look to other people.
Really.
Every time I've ever been discouraged in ministry, like I could trace it back to comparison. Not every time, but most of the time. I think about when I was Mark's intern, my first year out of high school. When I was Mark's intern, for a year, man, the ministry was just rocking with that, because it was at the peak. Like, he had been there several years, and things were rocking along. Student band was great. We had a drama team. We had the student leadership team. 100 students on a Wednesday night, and just everything was going well. And then I leave after the internship to go out on my own and be a youth pastor somewhere else. And that first year, man, it was rough. I get there. There's 7 kids my first Wednesday night. They all had issues. It was so scary. And I'm comparing everything at the beginning of that ministry to like the peak of Mark's ministry at the church we were at the time. And I mean, he was my youth pastor and my hero, larger than life. And so there I'm trying to be him, and I couldn't do that. And I know, had it not been for him encouraging me and reminding me how tough things were, and I would have quit. I mean, I would get so discouraged because I was trying to make it happen. And if it had been for these fail stories that he would share with me, and reminded me, like, dude, don't you remember when that happened, when that thing fell apart, when those people totally got mad at us and left or whatever, and had it not been for that, I would have made it. I would have quit. I'd have been done.
Well, we get our picture in our head of what a win is, and if we don't have the same picture of what a win is as Jesus did, we're going to be in trouble. And when you're a church leader of any kind, we will fashion in our minds what the finish line looks like. And you've probably got one too. And it's a room full of kids. All their hands are in the air. When you mention the name of the verse that we're going to read, the pages are rustling and their hair is blowing in the air because they're so hungry for the word. If we don't release some of the pictures we've painted in our mind of what a win or success is in student ministry, we're going to aim in the wrong direction. And the kids that we do have with us, we're only going to see them as a means to more kids instead of loving the kids that we do have. And I believe a lot of my problems in student ministry were looking at the bigger churches in town and wishing I had what they had. And I would think, man, if we just had a cool youth room, and if we just had a band, if we just had laser worship and fog floating from the ceiling, we could really reach people for Jesus. And none of that's in the New Testament. None of it's anywhere. It's loving Jesus, loving people. It's walking with God and taking somebody with you. I can do that with 7 kids. I can do that with 70 kids. As a matter of fact, the bigger it gets, the harder it is.
Yeah.
So the smaller group I actually have, if I could pour into some lives and see it come out of them, man, that's a win. It doesn't matter how many are showing up. So the fail of comparison will hurt you in student ministry. I think it's neat to see people as an example. But when that church over there that's doing it really well writes a book, and that's suddenly what God did becomes a formula for us to go duct tape onto our church, we're going to hurt our people. And we've got to stop doing that. We've got to stop comparing ourselves so much. So that's a fail for today that we're trying to still get rid of. Maybe you can too, but we're praying for you in student ministry.